Introducing Debbie Solaris, who will be presenting on our Ascension stage at the Sedona Ascension Retreat, taking place March 17th through the 19th at the Sedona Performing Arts Center, and featuring enlightened spiritual teachers, performers, and practitioners dedicated to the awakening and ascension of humanity. Debbie Solaris is a special guest and will be featured on the Ascension stage.
Thanks for having me here. I'm so excited to be here, and I'm really super excited about the upcoming Sedona Ascension Retreat Conference in March. I'm so happy to be a part of it, so thank you for the invite. And there's quite a few people in Colorado that are excited too, as we were talking about before. So it's I think it's going to be a great event this coming year.
Thank you for that, Debbie. I'm so blessed that we were connected and that you said yes to coming and being part of this conference. I'm so delighted that we have a couple of different stages to bring people onto to share their beautiful gifts and experiences and teachings. And so let's just dive right in and learn about who you are and how you came to be an ET contactee and a galactic historian, reading the galactic records of people's Akashics. Let's start, Debbie, with your ET contactee experiences. I understand that you had two different experiences in 2012 that had changed your life forever.
Oh, it totally did, Suzanne. I would have to say it was. It's like once you've had that kind of experience, there's no going back. You know, it's like so I was a pretty ordinary, unawakened human before my ET contact experiences. I was a Navy veteran. I worked for the environmental health department of the local health department in Colorado Springs, Colorado, and lived a pretty ordinary life. Now my partner, so I started dating this guy who's now my longtime partner. His name is Terry. And Terry's always been interested in the paranormal. He's always been interested in UFOs. And he was the one that I think initially introduced me to this world. And I thought he was freaking nuts. Okay. I just thought, what the heck is my boyfriend reading? It was like, but I started reading some of the articles, and I think it just kind of expanded my consciousness a little bit, like, oh, maybe this is a possibility, but didn't think anything of it. Never in a million years imagined that anything like that would ever happen to me. It was just kind of like, a passing curiosity. But honestly, I was a very skeptical person. I wasn't a big believer in UFOs, aliens, and any of that stuff, poltergeist, ghosts, whatever. So I would say in 2012, there's a lot of transition going on personally, and I would say in the general collective. There was, the Mayan calendar, the ending of the old age that came before us, and then so there was a lot of political changes during that time, and I was very concerned, so I sent out a prayer out to the universe one night. This was in May 2012, and I didn't hear anything I just sent out this prayer asking for assistance for planet Earth. I sent it out to any galactic beings, any ultra dimensional beings, or angels, ascended masters, Jesus, God, Mother Mary, whoever, just sent it out asking for help with the planet. And it was a very sincere and earnest prayer. I really felt it with all my heart and all my emotion. I wanted to see the planet do a lot better than what it had been for, I would say, centuries, if not thousands of years. So I said the prayer. I basically didn't think about it afterwards. I just thought, oh well, it's another prayer, and 2 weeks had passed, and then I went to sleep one night, and when I came to consciousness, I was in a different reality. I was on board. What I later found out was an Arcturian starship. So it was a starship from the star system of Arcturus. This ship was huge. Honestly, it didn't look like any starships you would see on Star Trek or Star Wars or any of the sci-fi, films or TV shows out there. It was very organic, but you could tell that it was some sort of a craft. And the ship, it was a sentient being. I would say it was huge in size. It was like a city size. It was huge. So I found myself being led by the ship into some sort of an orientation room. And that's when I first encountered these extraterrestrial beings. There was about 4 or 5 of them in the space that I was taken to. And I wasn't afraid. I think I was more curious about what was going on. And these beings were, I found out later, were Arcturian beings from Arcturus. And they looked like, I would say, the classical Arcturian beings that you would see depicted in We the Arcturians by Dr. Norma Milanovic, or some of the imagery that's out there that you see. So they were smaller beings. They had larger heads, larger eyes. But I had this feeling that they were pulling their energy down in order to interact with me. They had very humongous auras. It was actually really difficult to look at them because they're so high vibrational. Their auras are so bright. They have a multitude of different colors I've never seen before in these auras. So honestly, when you were looking at them, it was hard to even see their features because it was so bright. So I had to sneak glances at them through the periphery. And that's when I saw their physicality, that they looked, I would say, very, very alien like. They definitely weren't Earth humans by any means. Smaller bodies, larger heads, kind of a bluish, greenish skin tone, perhaps. Their eyes had pupils and irises. And so I knew they weren't gray aliens. And even their energy didn't feel like a gray. I don't know, I never encountered grays, but they were just so loving and accepting that you don't feel any fear around them because they just envelop you with all this love energy. And so I was formulating questions to ask them in my head. And even before I can finish the thought, they were answering my questions. So obviously they were tuned into me telepathically. Just very amazing beings. And I think we spent quite a bit of time. They had a holographic sphere of some sort in the space. And as they were telling me, answering my questions, they were using this hologram to illustrate, for instance, where they came from. So they showed me the constellation, they showed me the star system. They answered all my questions about who I was, because I was asking them, the first thing I asked them was, why am I here? I'm a nobody, I'm not anybody special, so, and they said, well, you're part of our family, you're actually an Arcturian soul that chose to be here on this planet during this time to do a mission. And they told me what my mission was. I honestly didn't understand it. There was a lot of things they told me at the time I didn't understand that maybe later on, looking back on it, I understand better. The other thing they told me was that all light workers, or they said everybody that was part of my family, which I think they meant my extended spiritual family, not just my Earth family, is protected on this planet. That we're all being watched over. We're all being protected. There's nothing to be fearful of. This is some sort of a weird construct reality that we're all playing a part in. They kept telling me several times that the third dimension is just nothing but an illusion. It's not a real reality. And the space that I was in the starship, I mean, I knew it wasn't a dream because the colors are so brilliant and the details are so brilliant. It's like you're in this hyper reality when you're in the fifth or higher dimensions. It doesn't, it's like when you're in the third dimension after you're in the fifth dimension, everything looks kind of dull and faded. It doesn't even feel real anymore. It feels more like a dream after you've been in those higher realms. But anyway, they spent a long time answering. I had a lot of questions about what is going on with the planet, what's the deal with religion, what's the deal with government, why are things the way they are on planet Earth, and how can we improve things, and they also showed me the simulated reality of what Earth could possibly be like in the future. And they showed me it was like homes that were integrated into the environment. Everybody grew their own food, so they had their own kind of greenhouse that was attached to their dwelling space. They were much smaller communities, so there wasn't cities like we know them anymore. Nobody drove cars anymore. We were all able to teleport wherever we wanted to go. There was probably some recreational vehicles here and there just for people would drive for fun, but for the most part, nobody needed. So I would imagine there was no more airlines. You just teleport, So it was pretty awesome. And I started crying, and I asked them, "Is this really going to happen?" And they said, "Well, it's up to the people of Earth if they want this to happen." So they took me around the ship. The ship was pretty freaking amazing. I've never seen technology like I've seen on board that ship. And then they kind of cut me loose and let me wander on my own. And I ended up in some sort of huge atrium-like space with several levels. And you have to keep in mind that the ship was huge. So it felt like you were in a city. And there was hundreds of if not thousands of extraterrestrial beings on board the ship. And they weren't all Arcturians. There was beings of many different species. So they're mostly humanoid. That was the one thing that kind of struck me was most of these beings look humanoid. They don't look like crazy looking octopus things that you see, on some of the, sci-fi movies or especially the ones from the 1950s. But, so but somehow I knew that, okay, yeah, those are some beings from Sirius, and those are some beings that from Andromeda, and there's a group of Pleiadian looking beings over there. It was kind of like interesting, like that somehow I organically knew what these beings were or where they were from. And then there was the way this experience ended was I was trying to get onto what I called a light shaft. There was like these rainbow-like shafts that would transport these beings from one end of this huge atrium to another. And I tried to get on one of those, and it kept throwing me off. And then until one of those beings caught me. He looked Pleiadian. I'm not sure if he was or not, but he telepathically told me that I had to set an intention of where I wanted to go first and then get on the shaft. Otherwise, I wouldn't know where to take me, So kind of like how the universe works, right? Like you have to set an intention, kind of like the law of attraction, and then, you'll get what you want, So I told him, you know what to do, so I'm going to follow what you're telling me. And so I set an intention, I want to go there. And then I stepped on this shaft and it transported me across this open space. And it was the coolest thing ever. And then I woke up and I was in my bed, darn it. So it felt like I was there for a long time, but I was probably gone for maybe 7 hours. while I was, I guess, in dream time, but it felt like my consciousness was there, but maybe not my physical body. But I knew at that point when I woke up that my life was never going to be the same. I was a changed person. I didn't realize to what extent at that time, but I knew I was changed forever. So I went from being completely asleep to being completely awakened in one night. And I remember telling my partner Terry about the experience, and at first he didn't believe me. He thought I was having a crazy dream, and I said, no, this was no dream. It was too real, and it wasn't even a lucid dream. It was much too real. And then I was having a lot of extraordinary experiences afterwards, where I was interdimensionally traveling through dimensions. I was seeing UFOs all of a sudden all the time. I was able to read people's thoughts for a while. I mean, it was just insane. And I was getting massive downloads of galactic information. It was so much that at times I thought I was going insane. I it was just stuff that I've never learned, I never knew about. Like all of a sudden I knew all these star systems, I knew what they were about, I knew all these different races, I knew the history of these places, and I was just astounded. And so I started doing research on my own to verify if what I was receiving was true and not just a figment of my imagination. And it collaborated with a lot of other people's accounts, like Alex Collier and Lissa Royale Holt and Barbara Hand Clow and all the other folks that talk about these things. A lot of the things I was seeing was collaborating. And I started doing Akashic readings probably, so that happened in 2012. And I did have a second experience on that ship in December 2012. That one was a much shorter visit. It was same ship, same beings, much shorter visit. It was the Pleiadian being that was helping me on the light shaft that interacted with me the most during that visit. And basically the information he shared with me was much more personal to me. It was information about my family and particular friends. And interestingly enough, my cat Piglet, who is a therapy animal, who is not from this planet, evidently. So, but she was actually a registered therapy animal with the American Humane Association. So she and I were an animal assisted therapy team for a number of years. We visited pretty much, we did the Wounded Warrior Project at Fort Carson. So we worked with the Wounded Warriors. We also worked with some of the assisted living facilities in Colorado Springs, and we did some adult daycares for adults that are mentally, I would say, handicapped in the Denver area. And we also worked with some reading programs at the local library. So we did a lot. It was, but I had a very unusual cat. It was like, she was, I don't know, unlike more human than a cat, I guess. I don't know. So we did that for a number of years. So some of the information I received during that visit was about who my cat really was, and she was from the Pleiades, I guess. So that was really interesting. And they told me all about her backstory, and it was like I mean, it was just, and she chose to be a cat, I guess, to assist with the, with healing people on Earth through the, so it was her destiny to be a therapy animal. During the time that she was with us. She's no longer with us, but so that was another really interesting visit. They gave me some information about my late father and just some other individuals that answered a lot of my questions, I guess, about transitioning from life to death. And I mean, it was very healing in a lot of ways. After that, I didn't really tell anybody my story because I didn't think anybody would believe me. I barely believed it, let alone being public with my story. So I basically took a lot of spiritual classes during that time. So like I said, I went from being asleep to awake, and started doing Akashic readings in 2014. So I started taking training. I did notice that even before I took these courses, that I was getting downloads of information about people, just about their past history, who they were, even some of their past lives on Earth as well as off planet. And it was kind of freaking me out. So that kind of led me down the Akashic reading path. And I've been doing Akashic readings ever since. I call them Galactic Akashic readings because I look at more than just the, just the Earth lives or the Earth records. So I go beyond Earth. I understand you do something similar with the work that you do. So we'll have to get together and compare notes at some point. So I'm looking forward to that. And I understand you have an Arcturian background too. I was told that I was an Arcturian starseed, which I didn't even know what that was, but now I know what it is. But it's pretty cool being an Arcturian starseed. It's like, I don't know, it just feels like you have like a whole family, just a beautiful family out there. That supports us on this planet. With the Akashic readings, I've done thousands of these readings, and currently I'm doing a study where I'm working with two epidemiologists, one from Syracuse University and the other one from, I want to say, I think it's SUNY. They're helping me to compile the information from my readings to see trends in certain star lineages. So this is something that we're probably going to compile in a book or possibly even a documentary. So that's currently what we're working on. Because through doing these thousands of readings, I've discovered that there's trends. There's trends in personality traits. There are trends in how people have with their soul contracts, how they relate to each other in relationships, with their health conditions. There are certain trends that are associated with people, say, Andromedan genetics, or of Lyran genetics, or Syrian, or Alpha Centaurian. So this is all information that we want to compile together, and I'm excited to offer that at a future date. So it's going to be pretty cool. I feel like I've talked a lot.
It's so fascinating on every level, and I'm super interested in how these different galactic races have intervened in the DNA encoding of humanity, and how they have been involved in the evolution of humanity for millennia on this life experimentation lab we call planet Earth.
Totally. I think that was the one thing that blew my mind the most. Was I always thought I was just this ordinary Earth human, and then I find out, oh wow, Earth humans, we're a composite of 22 different star races, at least 22. And I was like, oh well, that makes a lot of sense, because there's so much diversity on this planet, and we're all so different, yet we're all the same. So it's amazing to through the work that I do with the Galactic Akashic readings and the Galactic Historian work, that we can see how people came to be how they are here on Earth, through the history of this planet, and the history that even preceded this planet. So how did we end up coming here? So why are we here? And who are we, and where did we originally come from? And what a lot of my clients love to know about There's two things I get the most questions about. Life purpose. So they want to know why they're here. Why did I choose to be here? What am I here to do? So I get that question a lot. The other question I get is why are these with all these people? Like, who are these people that are in my life? Why do I have soul contracts? What's my soul contract with my spouse or with my parents or my kids? And so we can answer all those questions through the Akashic records. And what's really awesome is that they start getting an understanding of the connection that they have with these individuals, and also the connection that they have with themselves and their star families or guides. So it really is a transformative experience to have a reading like this. I've done, I would say, thousands of Akashic readings for clients all around the world of many different ages, demographics, cultures, and it's beautiful to see the influences of these star lineages in certain parts of the world, so there's that as well, so for instance, just to give you an example, Andromedan genetics are very prevalent in Southeast Asia. You see a lot of Andromedan genetics. Also, for some reason, in the UK, which is interesting. I get a lot of folks in the British Isles that have Andromedan star lineage. And it's not anywhere near Southeast Asia, but my understanding is that the UK was probably an Andromedan colony at some point. So you do see, for instance, in the Middle East, you see a lot of Syrian and Orion influence, in those areas. So in Native American culture, it's a lot of Pleiadian influences in those cultures, so a lot of Native Americans claim ancestry from the Pleiades, so they already knew where they came from. So it's information like that, and also understanding just the human story about how everything began in the Lyra system, which is a constellation near Galactic center in our galaxy. So Lyra plays a big part in our story. So you see a lot of Lyra influences in many of the clients that I work with. 70% of my clients have some connection with Lyra, but not all of us do. There's quite a few of us that are from Andromeda Galaxy or from Arcturus or from other star, Sirius B. So some of the Orion systems, that don't necessarily have a connection with the Lyra system, but I would say what happened in Lyra had a big influence on the galaxy because of their wars with the draconian beings that pretty much ended up dispersing all these different groups throughout our galaxy.
Lyrans then dispersed to other Earth spheres where they could survive. Okay.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. I feel a strong Lyra connection as well.
Oh yeah, me too, actually. Yeah, I actually had a past life regression memory once of my life in Lyra and what happened, and this was during the wars, and it was very traumatic, and I cried for months because I got re-traumatized, and so I had to do some healing around that. But it was actually it was kind of a turning point as far as me understanding the psychological components of these experiences that we've had in these past lives.
Yes.
Yeah.
I noticed there's a lot of ways that people are affected by their star lineages.
Totally.
Psychologically, right? Physically, even mentally, emotionally, spiritually.
With this next presentation that I'm doing this year, this is some of the information that I've compiled with health trends, with certain star lineages, star seeds of certain lineages. So through the many readings I've done, I've discovered that people with Lyran lineage tend to have these types of health conditions when they're here on Earth. Why is that? What can they do to optimize their genetics? You know, so it's not just pinpointing the problems, but also giving them some solutions. And this has been a very popular presentation in Colorado. I've gotten some awesome feedback, so I can't wait to share that with the Arizona crowd. So, but it's fascinating that we see trends with Arcturian lineages or Andromedan lineages or people with backgrounds in Orion, you know, so, and this is just information I compiled from the thousands of readings I've done and, you know, just, you know, people that I've worked with. I get a lot of questions about health. I'm sure you do too with your work that you do, but a lot of questions about health. A lot of starseeds and light workers are struggling with their health right now. So we definitely want to help them feel better while they're here so they can do their missions and have much more exciting and happy and fulfilling lives, you know. So, so I'm excited to share that with your group in March.
Thank you so much. Well, bless you for all that you're doing to support your star brothers and sisters on this planet and elsewhere in the cosmos. And we are so delighted.
Thank you so much for loving and supporting my work. And and you're an Arcturian star sister too. So so I feel like we're family almost, but we're definitely excited to be a part of this. So thank you for having me with you.
You're so welcome. I so look forward to it, Debbie.
Thank you.
And Debbie will be presenting on our Ascension stage during our March 2023 retreat here in Sedona, Arizona at the Sedona Performing Arts Center. Just visit SedonaAscensionRetreats.com to check it all out, and we will see you in Sedona.